Organizational Organizational climate is a very important variable in management research. Almost for 50 and odd years, researchers have attempted to study what constitutes organizational climate and what impact it has on a number of variables like employee productivity, employee satisfaction, company performance, and so on. There are some very interesting results. But first, this particular uh, session is devoted to my understanding, explaining, sharing my understanding of organizational climate. I have lived in four different cities: Delhi, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, and reasonably well exposed to other cities like Chennai, Bombay, and so on. If somebody asks me to describe the climate of these cities, it's very interesting. Nowadays, of course, we are concerned quite a bit about the pollution. So you can describe uh, the climate of each of these cities in terms of the extent to which they are polluted by saying that Delhi is most polluted, and Ahmedabad, for that matter, may be a little less polluted, and Hyderabad is less, and Bangalore may be in between, and so on. You also describe in terms of the temperature. Delhi is very cold in winter, Bangalore is not that bad, Hyderabad is medium, and Bombay is reasonably warm even in winter. So you can describe the climate in terms of the temperature, in terms of floods, rains, humidity, and a whole lot of things which can be systematically and scientifically measured. You can also describe the climate of these cities in terms of professionalism. Normally, people say a city like Bombay is more professional, Ahmedabad is businesslike, and Delhi is aggressive. Hyderabad is quiet. Now, agree, don't agree, that's a different. I mean, these are all subjective terms, and each person interprets the climate in his or her own terms. But you can describe the climate in terms of people and their friendliness, in terms of professionalism, in terms of traffic jams, in terms of the extent to which the auto rickshaw drivers and taxi drivers are honest or dishonest, in terms of the extent to which the systems work, quality of life is good, the kind of restaurants they have, so many variables. It all depends upon what interests you. Some people may be interested in traffic jams. Other people are interested in honesty of auto rickshaw drivers or taxi drivers. Some others are interested in the climate. And for example, it is said that if you are in Bangalore, you could have a lot of pollen related allergies and things of the kind. Whereas Delhi, dust allergy. Um Ahmedabad probably is in between. Hyderabad, that way, is safer, and so on. These are all perceptions. The same way, I think the climate of an organization can be measured. And the behavioral scientists who tried to measure organizational climate gave some definitions of this climate. Normally, they say the characteristics of this organization, of the organization, uh, which uh, have long term kind of which uh, have long term sustainability. That means normally you discuss the climate as one which is there for quite a considerable period of time. So this is number one. Number two is it distinguishes that particular organization from other organizations. So something unique, something distinguishable. And the third thing that you normally say is the one that has an impact on the people's behavior. So normally you say in an organization, what are some of the things that have an impact? If we go back to the classical theories like those of Hertzberg and others, he differentiated hygienes from motivators. Hygienes are those variables which can be attributed to the organization, which are essential for people to um, survive satisfied, get the minimum kind of satisfaction. They contribute to satisfaction. So these include the work conditions, the temperature that is maintained in the organization, the way the physical infrastructure is there, the availability, let us say, of some entertainment, including, I think, tea, the way the tea breaks are organized, and so on. So, I think all these physiological need fulfilling kind of variables, and also a little bit of safety and security need fulfilling variables, all these kind of things were considered to be hygienes. Without these, people don't really feel like walking. But Herzberg said that, look, this is not enough. It is necessary to have these. More important is that you should have good supervisors who listen to you, who respect you, who understand you, and who have a participative kind of a style. So it is leadership that makes. Then there were some people who say that organizational climate can be measured in terms of the motivational patterns of people. So they say, is the organizational climate very friendly and affectionate, so affiliation motive related? Or is it driven by power distance, highly structured, bureaucratic, and so on, which means it's power driven climate? Or it is driven by excellence, everyone is working hard to achieve something, make an impact, which can be an achievement driven climate? Or people are helpful to each other all the time, struggling to help a number of other people, extension driven kind of a climate. So you can view climate in terms of motivational patterns it reflects. You can also view climate in terms of a whole lot of miscellaneous variables, like I have mentioned earlier: supervisory behavior, the way rewards are given, the way the personal policies are implemented, the way I think people are treated with each other. And we also came up with another tool called HRD Climate, which really deals with the extent to which people have clarity of roles, extent to which people are open to each other, extent to which people are facilitated to learn from each other, trust each other, and confront when issues come up. So we called it something like a octopus, uh, openness, collaboration, trust, etc. kind of a climate and so on. So the climate that way has a large number of dimensions. When you have such a large and wide variety of dimensions, is it fair, therefore, to have one index of organizational climate and compare the climate of an organization on the same set of variables with another kind of an organization? I think it's a very interesting question to ask. Sometimes it is true that when you measure, let us say, 50 to 100 variables and come up with an index and have an organizational climate score and correlate with productivity, it might sometimes appear futile, because it is like saying that people are productive only in certain cities because the climate of that particular city is very good. Not necessary. I think even a city like Delhi, which goes into extremes, people are productive and they have their own ways of managing things in a certain kind of a climate, and different way of doing it in another kind of a climate. So there could be researchers to say a lot of work gets done in winter in a place like Delhi, whereas in Bangalore it is spread all through the year. In Bombay also it is spread all through the year, and in summer, of course, it is a little difficult in Delhi to work, because given the kind of climatic conditions. True, not true, one cannot say that, because nowadays people have worked out mechanisms to protect themselves from any variations in climate so that motivation levels are maintained. The same is true with an organization. If you have a 100 item inventory and measure organizational climate and you want to link it with productivity and so on, you may not find it. That is exactly what I found in 1967-68 when we conducted the study in small industries. We found that there was no relationship between perceived organizational climate and the employee productivity. However, in that very study, we found, in out of 8 industries we studied, in 6 of the units while there was no relationship, in 2 of the units we found mild positive relationship between organizational climate and productivity. That means those who perceive the climate of the organization in positive ways are likely to be more productive as compared to those who perceive the organizational climate in less favorable ways. Now, this is true in 2 organizations, but not true in 6 other organizations. What does it mean? It means different parts of organizational culture affect people in different ways. And there cannot be a static kind of a relationship between organizational climate. Today, if I don't have a good supervisor, I am concerned about supervisory styles. But tomorrow, when I have a good supervisor, I may be more concerned about the autonomy that is given to me to reward my juniors. And after some time, if I have all the autonomy that is given to me, I may be more concerned about the opportunities I have to be creative, to give upward feedback to seniors, to strategize thinking, and so on. So as people's interests keep on varying, they start looking for different kind of dimensions in organizational climate. So it may not be wise thing to treat organizational climate as one variable and correlate it with any other variables like individual performance, departmental performance, organizational performance. Having said that, I think the important question is then why do we measure organizational climate? My view is measure the organizational climate in order to improve it. Because there is, I mean, you don't need scientific theory to demonstrate that if you have right kind of a climate, people are likely to work better. I think it goes even without saying. If you have the right kind of a psychological climate in an organization, if supervisors are trusting, they are encouraging, they are positive, good work conditions prevail, and people listen to you, people are friendly to with each other, and there is considerable freedom of expression, and you start feeling that you are using your capabilities to the largest extent possible, that you are learning, etc., etc. It goes without saying that the organization will attract a lot of productivity. That is certainly true that good organizational climate will have a lot of positive kind of implications. But even if somebody has not demonstrated a relationship between organizational climate and productivity, I will still try to measure my organization's culture or climate and start improving those. I'll identify those which are perceived as not good and start working on it. If many people say your performance appraisal system is highly biased and it is not working, I would be concerned about it and I'll try to improve it, even if I find that is the only dimension on which people are unhappy, on all the other dimensions people are happy. Or if people are happy on a large number of other dimensions, I would like to look at it and so on. So organizational climate measures have their utility by themselves, and they need not be related statistically or in terms of research wise to productivity and other kind of variables. This is a viewpoint I have. We have produced a very interesting book at the Academy of HRD in Ahmedabad. You can get this book. This book is Measuring Organizational Climate. This book gives a large number of tools. This book is authored by Dr. Sarupriya, myself, and Professor Seth Madhavan. You can write to Academy of HRD, get this book, and look at a whole lot of tools. I would also like to, in closing, differentiate between organizational climate and organizational culture. Culture is lot more lasting. Climate sometimes varies. Uh, to me, therefore, the difference is culture is the norms, values, an organization follows. The kind of uh, the, the kind of things that are propagated in the company in the form of some stories to say our culture, the culture of our organization is wonderful. It's not merely the climate, it goes far beyond. Like, for example, in IIM Ahmedabad, we used to say peer culture. Peer culture is characteristic of this institute where everyone treats every other person with respect. Everyone is called by first name, and everyone uh, have the same size room, and there is equality. Whether you are assistant professor, associate professor, it doesn't matter. You are all called as professors and so on. So that's a lasting thing, and this particular kind of a thing as a part of IIM Ahmedabad culture has been lasting for, let us say, the last from its inception. Thanks to people like Sarabhai and Mathai who have instituted, and the subsequent directors who nurture the same kind of a culture. So that is normally the difference between a climate. Climate is somewhat relatively, I think, relatively temporary, whereas culture is relatively lot more lasting. Here, relativity is the important kind of a thing. I hope you enjoyed the sharing. Please do read some literature.